then.
With Walter Cronkite.
Good evening. Patricia Hearst is a free woman tonight, at least temporarily. The 22-year-old publishing heiress has been reunited with her family at a secret location after almost 3 years as kidnapped victim, fugitive in the underground, and prisoner behind bars. There's one big restriction on her freedom, heavy bail posted by her family. Richard Threlkeld reports.
This morning, Patricia Hearst's prison cell in San Diego was empty. U.S. Marshals had come for her in the middle of the night and brought her under heavy security to the federal courthouse in San Francisco for the last little bit of bookkeeping before she could be set free. Federal Judge William Orrick denied her motion for a new trial, but ordered her released until her bank robbery conviction can be appealed. Her defense attorney spelled it out.
That order provides that she is released to the custody of her mother and father under rather elaborate security precautions in accordance with a plan submitted to the court on Monday of this week. The judge also set the amount of $1 million in bail.
The Hearst posted 10% of that $1 million in cash and security required, and soon after, Patricia Hearst emerged a free woman, at least for the time being.
Sure. Okay. All right, gentlemen, as I indicated before, there will be no questions because of legal reasons. However, Miss Hearst has indicated she might indicate how it feels right now to be released on bail.
Well, it would be a lot better if I were home right now, and I'd like to get this over with so I can go home.
Perhaps it seems strange, a convicted criminal serving a 7-year prison term suddenly free on appeal, but it's not anything especially unusual even for less famous prisoners. Miss Hearst will remain with her family, presumably in heavily guarded seclusion, at least till next March, when a federal appeals court will hear her case. Authorities in Los Angeles, where she's charged with other crimes, have reportedly agreed to delay her trial there until after her appeal is decided. Almost 3 years ago, in her first message from the underground as a kidnapped hostage, this is what Patricia Hearst told her parents.
I just want to get out of here and see everyone again.
Today, after all that, she said almost the same thing.
Well, it would be a lot better if I were home right now, and I'd like to get this over with so I can go home.
And today, Patricia Hearst finally did go home. Richard Threlkeld, CBS News, San Francisco.
Now that you've had a drink, oh, what a time to think.
Wow, I could have had a V8.
With just one sip to go, that's the wrong time to know.
Wow, I could have had a V8.
V8 Cocktail Vegetable Juice is a healthful blend of 8 garden vegetables that taste terrific and is naturally low in calories. But remember, the time to think of having a V8 is before you've had something else.
Wow, I could have had a V8.
Oh. Painful muscular backache. When you want more than simple pain relievers, take Momentum tablets. Stronger, different than most pain relievers you use for headaches. Look, Momentum combines 3 ingredients for backache relief. Most pain relievers have only 1. Momentum, 2 pain medications plus a mild calming ingredient for extra relief. It works on back pain and inflammation, so muscle spasms relax in minutes. Momentum, stronger, different, made specially for muscular backache.
CIA Director George Bush today went to Plains, Georgia to tell President-elect Jimmy Carter some of the intelligence secrets he could not tell him when he was only a presidential candidate. Bob Schieffer reports.
Mr. Carter wanted Vice President-elect Mondale to attend this session since it included the first detailed rundown provided by the Ford administration on top-secret methods used to gather intelligence data. There is increasing speculation that CIA Director George Bush may be asked to stay at his post during the new administration. But as he arrived today, he and Carter aides all refused comment on that.
I'm going to use the same ground rules that we had before, which is we're here to have a professional intelligence briefing. And this time I expect we may, with the President-elect, cover matters involving some of the very sensitive matters that we didn't touch on before. And so I don't think that my personal situation will come up at all. I serve at the pleasure of the President, and that's the way it is and should be.
Mr. Carter didn't venture outdoors today, but as the group gathered for a lengthy private session at his heavily guarded home here, it did become known that he is studying several informal proposals to realign all of the intelligence agencies. One option currently under study calls for bringing former Secretary of Defense James Schlesinger back into the government to act as sort of an intelligence overlord who would coordinate all intelligence gathering from a new post in the White House. Incidentally, it was also revealed today that among the many suggestions Mr. Carter has been getting from around the country in recent weeks was some unsolicited advice from Richard Nixon. In a two-page letter of congratulations, the former president advised Mr. Carter to get plenty of rest before he moves to Washington. Bob Schieffer, CBS News, Plains.
It was announced today that Mr. Carter has named 11 distinguished Americans to advise him on high-level appointments to his administration. They include 4 women and 3 blacks. There was a break today in the almost steady barrage of grim figures on the economy. Inflation slowed a bit. Last month, consumer prices rose a moderate 0.3%, the smallest increase in 7 months. And that left consumer prices 5.3% higher than a year ago. Some of the best news in today's report was that real spendable earnings were up 0.5%. Now, that's the average worker's paycheck after adjusting for inflation and taxes. The increase wasn't much, but over the past year, those earnings have declined 0.4%. Expressing concern over signs of the slowdown in the economy, the Federal Reserve Board today moved to increase the flow of money by cutting its discount rate by 0.25%. The new interest rate, 5.25%. A limited strike by the United Auto Workers against General Motors was settled today, just 12 hours after it began. The two sides reached tentative agreement on a 3-year contract for 390,000 workers. It's estimated that wages and benefits will go up an average of $3.75 an hour to more than $15. And the UAW won its demand that GM pledge neutrality in the union's organizing attempts in the company's southern plants.
Presenting Betty Crocker Cake and Frosting. Betty Crocker Frosting. Superb spreadability. Rich, smooth, creamy. It's the crowning touch. And in the world of Devil's Food Cakes, one stands alone. Betty Crocker. A Betty Crocker Devil's Food Cake tastes deliciously moist. Tests show it tastes better than the other leading Devil's Food Cake mix. Betty Crocker Cake and Frosting. Why make anything less?
1 ounce of Total gives you 100% of the recommended daily allowance of all these important vitamins and iron.
Yeah?
I'll pour this leading natural cereal. Stop me when you think the vitamin value equals Totals.
Okay. No.
Not yet.
Stop.
Nope.
This is unreal.
It takes at least 16 ounces of any of the leading natural cereals to equal the vitamins in 1 ounce of fortified Total.
Wow, what a difference.
That's the total difference.
The United Nations Security Council is scheduled to vote Monday on Angola's second try for membership in the world body. Richard C. Hoddle reports from the UN that the United States will not veto that application as it did last June. At that time, the U.S. based its objection on the continued presence in Angola of Cuban troops, as well as Angola's close relations with Moscow. None of that has changed, but the U.S. now believes that the Soviets should not monopolize influence on Angola. Also, the U.S. does not want to alienate black African leaders during the talks on black majority rule for Rhodesia. Rhodesian Prime Minister Ian Smith said today Secretary of State Kissinger had told him that the United States might provide his government with assistance, possibly even military aid, if black Rhodesians scuttled those Geneva talks. And Smith said he was assured that this commitment would be honored by the new Carter administration. He made these assertions in a nationwide broadcast interview with Robin Wright and 3 Rhodesian reporters.
It is a fact that in the talks which I had with Dr. Kissinger in Pretoria at the commencement of this exercise, that he did give me an assurance that if we entered this agreement and it collapsed because of what the black Rhodesians had done, as opposed to myself and my government, that he was absolutely convinced that we would get a great deal more sympathy from the free world and also tangible assistance.
What kind of tangible assistance?
Well,
talking military
we
supplies?
did not go into details. I must emphasize that. I don't want to suggest Dr. Kissinger made commitments which he did not make. He confined himself purely to the fact that he himself was satisfied that there would be this greater understanding and sympathy for us. And he believed it would lead to greater material support. We did not go into details.
Did you have the understanding that it might include military supplies?
Yes.
Top officials say flatly that Secretary Kissinger made no commitment to send military aid to Rhodesia if the talks fail and if it's perceived that the Rhodesian blacks are responsible. But based on Kissinger's technique in other sensitive negotiations, it is widely believed that the Secretary won Smith's approval by suggesting that Rhodesia would get American support, perhaps even military support, if he showed goodwill and accepted the American peace plan. It is true that most American strategists of both parties would like to limit Soviet influence in southern Africa, but there are strong differences about how to proceed. Several of President-elect Carter's top aides, responsible for the transition in foreign policy, believe that it is, to quote one of them, inconceivable that a Carter administration would recommend military aid for a white minority government in southern Africa, or that Congress would approve it. Marvin Kalb, CBS News, Washington.
In Francistown, Botswana, a bomb tore through the headquarters of one of Rhodesia's black nationalist factions. A child was killed, 4 other persons injured. The Botswana government accused Rhodesian security forces of setting off that bomb. It will be a year ago tomorrow that Spain's Generalissimo Francisco Franco died, and in that year Spain has changed dramatically. But none of the reforms pushed by King Juan Carlos was as significant as yesterday's decision to abolish authoritarian rule and replace it with a 2-house legislature. Bill McLaughlin reports.
Proyecto de ley ha sido aprobado. Se levanta la
sesión. Spanish Parliament voted in effect to dissolve itself, thus opening the way for a nationwide referendum aimed at bringing Western-style democracy to Spain. But there are still many obstacles ahead. After a sometimes turbulent and always difficult year, Spain now stands at the halfway point between dictatorship and democracy, and there's still no firm guarantee that it's going to move forward rather than backward. The one sure bright sign has been the performance of Juan Carlos. Juan Carlos is pressing ahead with plans to hold free elections toward the middle of next year. Part of his strategy is to convince the army and the old Franco crowd that democracy pays. He constantly receives visitors from Western Europe. Here, the Belgian foreign minister, who are encouraged by what they see and tentatively promise to help Spain enter the common market and NATO. Juan Carlos is also courting the political center and moderate right, hoping that when elections are held, the left will not be voted into power. There's a new mood in Spain. The signs of change are visible. Spaniards are permitted to see films and read books and magazines that were forbidden by the puritanical Franco regime. There are also changes at the top. The doors of Franco's palace were closed. The king's home is open as part of an organized public relations campaign to improve the image of the attractive royal family at home and abroad. The new freedom has been extended to newspapers, as long as they do not attack the king, the army, or national unity. Juan Carlos handpicked an old friend to guide Spain toward democracy. He is the nation's new prime minister, 44-year-old Adolfo Suarez. The Suarez cabinet is now working on a program of sweeping political reforms and seems confident that the transition to democracy will be peaceful. The ailing Spanish economy may interfere with the government's plans. The inflation rate, one of the worst in Europe, is over 20%, and there are about 1 million unemployed. Felipe González, 34-year-old leader of the Socialist Party, is counting on the troubled economy to bring the left to power. As he puts it, the people are not going to wait to be given power, they're going to take it. He can whip up support of millions of organized workers, like the men in this Chrysler plant in Madrid. His goal is a neutral, socialist Spain without a king. But the opposition is divided. There are also men like Joaquin Ruiz, the highly respected leader of the Christian Democrat Party. He will have an important voice in the new Spain, and he's willing to give the king a chance.
Democracy will not come to Spain without struggle and pain. In the end, ironically, it will probably be that most undemocratic of institutions, the army, that makes it possible. For the Army is now set to both protect and follow King Juan Carlos, and the path he is leading them down ends in a free Spain. Bill McLaughlin, CBS News at the Royal Palace in Zarzuela, near Madrid.
Economic experts of OPEC, the world oil cartel, have ended a week-long conference in Vienna on whether there should be an oil price increase. They said their proposals would remain secret until OPEC's ministers meet next month. Texas supplies about 1/4 of the nation's oil, but Texas oil is running low, and the state wants it to last as long as possible. So today, for the first time in 6 years, it imposed proration. It ordered a 1% cut in the production of the state's wells. Now, that won't affect the nation's consumers. The Texas official said the move was to warn the nation that it had better get moving on other sources of energy and a national energy policy. Beirut's international airport, closed for almost 5 months because of the Lebanese civil war, reopened today under the protection of Arab League peacekeeping forces. The first plane to arrive was a Middle East Airlines jet from Rome. By late today, 3 more planes from Saudi Arabia, Switzerland, and France arrived. Passenger departures from Lebanon, it was said, far exceeded arrivals. UNESCO, the UN's educational, scientific, and cultural organization, has voted to condemn Israeli archaeological excavations and building projects in Jerusalem. It was UNESCO's second anti-Israeli vote in as many days.
I forgot to reset my slow cooker.
Because so many slow cooker recipes call for high heat first, then low, Hamilton Beach designed the Crock Watcher, the only slow cooker that shifts automatically, cooks all day while you're away, so you don't have to reset it, makes inexpensive meats tender and juicy, works wonders with all kinds of foods. The Crock Watcher with automatic shift in stoneware or easy-to-clean glass crock.
If a fire broke out in your home tonight, could you get your family out in time? I'm going to conduct a family fire drill with the help of GE's Home Sentry smoke alarm to show you how GE's early warning system can help save your family's lives. GE's Home Sentry continually sniffs the air and sounds an alarm when smoke reaches it. GE's Home Sentry smoke alarm can help you save your family's lives.
Relatives grieved anew today at a Kentucky coal mine as the bodies of 8 miners and 3 mine inspectors killed last March were brought to the surface. Some relatives were bitter. One woman, whose son was among the dead, screamed at mine company officials, "I hope you rot in hell." Bruce Hall reports from Oven Fork, Kentucky.
As families lined the edge of the Scotia mine entrance, a long and bitter 8-month wait for the removal of 11 men buried in a southeastern Kentucky coal mine came to an end today. Officials barred cameras from the ground area, permitting only aerial shots. And even as the bodies were being brought to the surface, families of the dead miners were openly critical about repeated delays in the recovery operation.
It seems almost as if they're just, making a little carnival out of it. Why not just, as soon as you get to the man, just load him on a stretcher, take him out, notify the funeral home to pick him up, and the family. But it seems like, instead they want to make a production out of it for some reason.
Over the protest of the families, the government ordered the mine sealed last March after 2 explosions took 26 lives. Only 15 bodies had been recovered at the time. A recovery party was allowed in the mine in July, but it took them 4 months to reach the bodies. Officials said progress was slowed by mine cave-ins, high water, and concentrations of poisonous methane gas. Now that the bodies have been removed from the mine, federal investigators will return in a couple of days. They want to determine if there's any basis to widespread reports that poor safety conditions in the mine may have contributed to the 2 explosions that claimed 26 lives. Bruce Hall, CBS News, Oven Fork, Kentucky.
In Los Angeles early today, there was a fireman's nightmare. Fire high in a skyscraper. The flames raced through a corner of the 20th floor of the 32-story Occidental Tower. The fire briefly spread to the 21st and the 22nd floors. No office workers were in the building, but the firemen, almost 300 of them, had other headaches. There was no sprinkler system, aerial ladders weren't high enough, and elevators broke down. Hoses had to be hauled up stairways. 3 firemen were hurt. The cause of the fire is under investigation. That 400-mile cloud with radioactive material from this week's hydrogen bomb explosion in China is expected to reach Washington State by morning. The Environmental Protection Agency said the clouds due over Pennsylvania by Sunday, an area where there's a threat of rain. The rain could mean radioactive deposits on the ground. But the experts say radiation exposure is not expected to reach a dangerous level. Government pay is very often below that of private industry, a potential problem for the Carter administration, as Eric Severide notes in tonight's commentary.
Everybody was supposed to hate Washington. Jimmy Carter personified anti-Washingtonism. Today, his friends, would-be friends, spear carriers, and followers are stampeding into Washington. It's not exactly a case of rats swimming to the sinking ship, partly a case of avenging angels on fire to purify the premises, but mostly just the normal, healthy passion for place, power, and prestige. Carter's personnel managers are probably going to rediscover some old lessons. It is easy enough to get bright men and women in their 20s and early 30s for important jobs. They are rich in that most important form of capital, time. It is easy enough to get able men and women in their 50s. By then, the most successful have made their stake in private enterprise and can afford an insecure job at much lower pay, and their kids are grown. What government needs even more acutely is a large clutch of men and women in their late 30s and their 40s, the period when the line of energy and the line of experience meet at the optimum level. But it's precisely this age group that is hardest to attract to government. Most of them don't have the security of accumulated money capital or the same sense of possessing time to burn. Many are at a critical point in their professional or commercial pecking order, in their company or law firm or faculty. If they drop out of that, they may not be able to drop back in. And it's at that age that so many have children of secondary school age, when it's particularly painful for a child to be uprooted from his friendships. If Carter is to select the new people on something like a racial and sexual quota basis, he may diminish the political problem of equity, but he will increase his practical problem. Social justice and efficiency are always an awkward fit. In any case, he had better go along quietly with proposals now apparently in the making for higher pay for appointed positions as well as for judges and congressmen. None of these people, save the judges, have security, and all are now acutely underpaid. In 7 years' time, they've had only a 5% raise, while living costs have rocketed up far more than that. This has reached a point where many congressmen, judges, policy-making executives are using up their savings to keep their jobs. Below them is a semi-submerged mass of civil service people who do have security, have had many raises, will have good pensions. They are not to worry, though some of them in the top career jobs are paid far below what similar responsibilities would earn in private life. Congress is nearly always politically fearful of raising government pay, including its own. But there are times in life when the courage to be selfish is entirely in order.
The New York Post, one of the largest afternoon newspapers in the country and the city's only afternoon daily, has been sold to Australian publisher Rupert Murdoch, who owns other newspapers in the United States, England, and Australia. Details of the sale were not disclosed immediately. Averages slipped a bit on the New York Stock Exchange today. Volume was 24,550,000 shares. The average price per share rose 3 cents on the New York Exchange, 7 cents on the American. A further note on the Patricia Hearst story. Miss Hearst was taken after her release to her family's Nob Hill apartment in San Francisco. It's not known just which of the numerous Hearst residences she'll be at for the next few months, but wherever it is, there will be heavy security, and she's under specific court order to live with her parents.
I'll never forget my first love. You know why? Because she's still my love today.
It shouldn't matter that you wear dentures. Today you have the best cleaning Polident ever. We've added more cleansers, more whitener, and a unique penetrating ingredient that helps lift away odor-causing film to leave dentures clean and up-close fresh. Polident, we want you to stay close.
Dear Dad. Dear Dad,
If you have trouble reading your son's handwriting, imagine how his teachers feel.
What, that's an E?
Give him the Smith Corona cartridge ribbon typewriter, America's best-selling portable, and his genius won't be obscured by his handwriting.
Dear Dad, please send money.
Mention Soviet art and socialist realism comes to mind, an art form that was dictated during Stalin's reign and continues officially to this day. But every rule has an exception, and Bernard Redmont has found it.
This is the home of a man who, by all logic, ought not to exist. He's a Moscow multimillionaire named George Kostakis, and he owns the world's foremost collection of unofficial Russian art. For the first time, Kostakis invited a television camera into his cramped 15th-story flat on the edge of Moscow. This is supposed to be taboo, forbidden art, suppressed since the 20s. Art experts in the West value the collection at millions of dollars. But Kostakis is no Onassis. His minions are only on paper or canvas or wood. He's no dealer. He can't take the collection out with him if he leaves the country. He has some assets. Though born in Russia, he holds Greek nationality. His father was a prosperous tobacco merchant, and Kostakis works for the Canadian Embassy and enjoys a protection most Russians don't have. He also has contacts in the establishment. Still, it's a miracle that Kostakis, a private art collector, is allowed to do what he does. The flat is ablaze with 300 works, including a wall full of Chagall and 9 Kandinskys. Kostakis got many for a song when few people wanted them. Once he got a painting on plywood that was being used to board up a barn window. All he had to pay was a replacement board to keep out the drafts. One Malevich was appraised at $1.5 million. It cost Kostakis $400. Kostakis says he was able to amass and keep this priceless collection because he was discreet about it.
I must tell you that I was very lucky that during the difficult period, from Stalin period, when everything was forbidden, but I must say that I was never bothered by the authorities. But I was trying to be a quiet man. You see, I tried not to fight with the government.
Kostakis believes the current regime is now allowing more freedom for artists, and official Russians are even expressing interest in his collection. The whole affair creates a dilemma for the Kremlin. To legitimize the forbidden artists and recognize the Kostakis collection might win propaganda points, but it might also crumble the whole conservative edifice of socialist realism built up here for half a century. Bernard Redmont, CBS News, Moscow.
And that's the way it is. Friday, November 19th, 1976. This is Walter Cronkite, CBS News. Good night.
I've been liberated. I used to be a slave to scraping and scrubbing pots and pans. But I've been liberated by Teflon. Food doesn't stick to Teflon like it does to other things. See? And because food doesn't stick to Teflon, it's easier to clean. And that makes my life a lot easier. Teflon is so much easier to clean. It's a clean winner. Tell your friends.
Teflon, the clean winner from DuPont.
A panel of nutritional scientists proposed recommended daily allowances for vitamin supplements.
And now Unicap Plus Iron gives you 100% of these recommended daily allowances of iron plus 10 essential vitamins. Someday all vitamin brands may conform to these recommended allowances, but Unicap Plus Iron does it today.
Get 100% of these recommended allowances of iron and 10 essential vitamins in Unicap Plus Iron, one of the Unicap vitamin family from Upjohn.
This has been the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite. Hamilton Durden, campaign director for President-elect Jimmy Carter, will be the guest this Sunday on Face the Nation.
Mariel Hemingway stars in the dramatic movie I Want to Keep My Baby, Friday night at 8 here on the CBS television network.